Andy, the team is out for tomorrow's match against Munster at the Sportsground. But it's almost a case now that the first thing maybe that you look for is the information that how the COVID tests have gone this week, and you've come out with completely negative throughout the coaches and the players. That must be a relief.
Yeah, it's a huge relief, William. Just given the amount of COVID that's out there in the community at the moment, in my mind, it was inevitable we were going to get some cases. But around the Christmas period, the second week back from that period, to have none is a compliment to all the players and the staff and the seriousness with which we're taking our own precautions and doing things within the sports ground to minimise our impact with it. So really pleasing. It was a lot of fingers were crossed, but we got the results and the news that we wanted.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Just looking at the team you've put out, there's a few changes. There's 4 changes to the starting team. Finley's come into the front row. Dominic's dropped to the bench. Ultan Delan's in for Gavin Thornbury, who's on the bench. Sean O'Brien, who made his comeback, picked up a bit of a knock, is now starting. And then Ben O'Donnell starting after a pretty exciting start for Connacht last weekend off the bench. So give me an idea what your thoughts are about those decisions.
Yeah, well, we had. I'll start with Finlay. So Finlay, he had a week off the previous week. That was as per the IRFU guidelines for anyone who'd been in their ordinations program. So he had that week off. I actually thought both Dom Robertson-McCoy and Connor Kenny were fantastic for us last week, and I was really impressed with both those men. They haven't had many opportunities this year, but they got them last week, and both of them I thought took them really, really well. The reason we've gone with Finlay, we have a returning international player who we were very, very happy with his performance prior to his week off. Finlay comes in there. Some good experience there for us. Dom then moves back to the bench, and it's a tough one there for Connor Kenny. He drops out. And isn't it funny how quickly we forget about how good Jack Ainge has been, because Jack hasn't been available to us for the last couple of weeks. He's a player who's been brilliant for us all year. But such as the depth we've now got in that tight head spot, we've got four men who are really pushing each other to get that starting berth. So that's the tight head spot with Ultan coming in. Gav, I thought Gav was brilliant against Leinster. He did pick up a bit of a knock, so he hasn't trained much during the course of the week. Again, Ulti was a late call-up for us in that Leinster game. He again was on a week off, and he came in very late. But Ultan, as we've seen over the previous few games, certainly the Racing game was probably the best I've seen Ultan play. So to have him come in alongside Quinn with Gav, as well as he played against Leinster, that gives us a really strong 3 in that second row position. In the back row there, Owen Marston actually picked up a knock last week, so he's injured his calf. He's been brilliant for us all year. He's been very durable and played a lot of minutes for us, but he did pick up an injury last week. And the timing of Sean O'Brien coming back in was spot on for us. So Sean moved straight into that number 6 jersey. So otherwise, the forward pack remains as it was. And in the back line, we've kept that virtually the same, other than Ben O'Donnell coming in for Pete Sullivan. I thought, again, Pete was good, but we do have Ben O'Donnell, who we've signed from Australia. He's worked really hard on coming back from that knee injury. You could see from the 20 minutes that he got, William, that there's a lot to like about him. He's not going to be at his best just yet. He will need time, but he's a very exciting player, and the quicker we can get him out there into a start, the better it is for him and for us, I believe.
Yeah, it's exciting that you have cover and a bit of depth now in places, and there's a lot of competition for places. Munster, on the other hand, and I know you've got to follow your more than what Connacht are up to, but Munster have made 15 changes to the team that went to Belfast. They've brought in a load of internationals. They are coming fully loaded here. And is that really, do you think, a response to the way the tournament is now set up? Connacht are 8 points behind Munster. This is nominally the 11th round of Pro 14 games, but it's actually only the 9th because you've both had games off. But they could almost put the top position to bed if they win here. There's a lot riding on this game.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, and we're not surprised by the team that they've put out. We are sitting first and second in our respective conference. We're taking it as a compliment that they're respecting the performance we put out last week and what we're building here at Connacht. And the other part of it is great. We want to make sure we're playing against their best, just to test ourselves and to see exactly where we're at. So we're really happy with the team that we've put out. We can't control what team they put out, but when we saw it today, there were genuine smiles around the camp saying, "You beauty, here we go. We've got the best boys coming," and it all bodes well for a really exciting game tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's maybe seldom that an interprovincial has had quite so much riding on it. The changes to the tournament, which were announced on the 23rd of December and maybe have escaped a bit of notice for many people. The fact that it's now only the top two going into this final, the fact that it's been reduced number of games, there's a certain amount of disappointment to that because the season was set up and teams have worked very hard to try to get all their games played. It certainly, I've seen some reaction from fans that's a bit, it's quite negative to this.
Yeah, listen, I think it's not ideal. Let's put it that way. It's not ideal. I think, when you get to the end of a season, albeit an abridged season this year, I think just to go straight to top of one conference, top of the other one, seems a bit sudden to me. But it's a different season. This is a season we've never seen before. So it's probably another one of those things that's thrown at you. You just got to deal with it and you got to get on with it. We now know well in advance what the state of play is. So it's up to all teams now to get to the top of your conference. Pretty simple. And as you explained there before, that makes tomorrow night's game even more important for both of us. If Munster do win it, they do stretch that lead. If we can win it, then we certainly, they become within reach of us, and momentum's a pretty powerful thing in such a short competition.
Yeah, that has to be. I know you were disappointed with the performance and the defeat at home to the Scarlets, but that game now is flashing a bit like a beacon because they have played 9 games, but if Connacht had beaten them, they'd be further behind and Connacht would be closer to Munster. It does show that all of these games count, even though sometimes they just roll around week to week. Consistency and winning is a great habit.
Yeah, it is, and we knew it at the time, William. We were really disappointed with that performance. We were disappointed with the Ulster performance, but we've been really proud of a couple of performances too, where away from home, I know up until, well, certainly the previous 2 years I've been here, our away form hasn't been that great, but we've now won 3 on the road, which is Edinburgh away, which was a really good win for us, Zebre away, but in good style, and then Leinster away on the weekend. They're 3 pretty big scalps in good form. Where we haven't been as good is that home record, and that's something that we need to try and rectify that as of tomorrow night. So it's not lost on us, but again, we don't live in the past; we live in the current, and all we can do now is zone in on this Munster game tomorrow night and make sure that the 23 men out there put their best performance out there on the football field. And if we do, I believe it's good enough to win.
Leinster last week was maybe a different challenge in terms of, I suppose, the general consensus, maybe from people with outside the camp, and include myself in this, was Connacht don't win at the RDS. Connacht don't beat Leinster in Dublin very often, as we know. So it was a pleasant surprise. There was there less pressure in that game than the fact that tomorrow night is a home game, it's a must win, and it's a different mental setup to going to win in Leinster last week.
Yeah, you're right. There was definitely an element of nothing to lose and everything to gain last week. With the week that we'd had we'd had a lot of disruptions during the course of the week. And weirdly, I think probably our two best performances throughout the course of this year, well, we've had some good performances. If I think of Ulster right at the front end of the year, if I think of Edinburgh away, but I then think of the Racing game away, and then the Leinster game away. Both of those weeks were really disrupted in that Leinster game. Last week we had, in the end with the injury to Kieran Marmin just before kickoff, it was basically four times we had to change that team throughout the course of the week. In the Racing week, before we headed over to Racing to take on the might of Racing, we lost our two second rowers, Quinn Rue and Gavin Thornbury. So a massive disruption for us. But both of those games, probably where there was this element of nothing to gain or nothing to lose, everything to gain, we went well. So, as you say, it is a different mindset coming into this one. We now know what's at stake. The message from our captain last week, Quinn Rue, at the end of the game, and it's been echoed throughout the course of this week. The Leinster performance means nothing if we don't back it up tomorrow night. And at the end of our captain's run game prep, whatever you want to call it, today, Quinn Rue again reiterated that point, fellas. If you don't believe we can win tomorrow night, don't turn up, because we've got another bloke who does. If you do, then rock up and pick up your jersey. And tomorrow night's performance has to be as good, if not better, than the performance we put out there against Leinster. And if we bring that, and if Munster bring their A game, it should be a brilliant game of rugby.
What's the absolute key to tomorrow night? What's the one thing that, even allowing for that brilliant performance in Dublin, what's the thing you have to get right? What are you looking for when you're up in your coach's eyrie there watching? What are you going to be looking for straight away? What's going to galvanise this team to get this win?
Well, the first thing will be our line speed. I think that we suffocated Leinster last week, and so the energy we brought repeatedly for 80 minutes against Leinster, we need to bring that against Munster. It's a different team. I think Munster will have seen that when we know they've got a good kicking game. So our ability to not get bored with that, to keep getting off the line and putting pressure on them, I think is really important. So that's when we don't have the football. When we do have the football, again, making sure we play smart, we play in the right areas, so that when we do get down into those scoring zones, that we have the energy to play. But the third thing, I think this is a crucial point. It's all about discipline. So if you look at how Munster get access, how Munster score points, they score points through penalties or kicking to corners and mauling. If you looked we've looked at their performance against Claremont, they won 39-32. All 39 points came directly from either off the boot or kicking to the corner from a penalty and mauling the ball over. 21 points they scored against Harlequins, the exact same. They came from penalty kicks to goal or kicking to the corner, mauling. When we lost to them earlier on this year, which we did a couple of times, virtually all of their points, 90% of their points, came from our ill discipline that put them into the corner or allowed them to kick 3 points. So Frank Murphy's got the game tomorrow night. Really important that we don't give him easy things to penalise. We call them red penalties. We don't give red penalties away tomorrow. We know that they play for penalties, so we've got to be smart. We've got to stay patient. Don't give them the easy access that they want. And if we can do that, as well as the things with and without the football, we put ourselves in a really good spot.